Welcome back, everyone, to HalloweenHaunts365.com, the podcast. I'm Jared.
Hi, I'm Terry.
This is Terry, and as you saw from the intro, we're going to start our movie reviews, and why not start with my favorite movie, or movie series, A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, what are your first thoughts about this film since we just watched it?
I I always liked it. It never scared me as a kid watching it. I thought it was kind of funny to me.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely got funny. I mean, Freddie really hit his stride come number 3. That's when he became a worldwide phenomenon. But
I mean, I have friends that it still gives them nightmares, so they won't watch it.
yeah, this is
But
this is special to me because this is the first horror movie I watched.
at what age?
I don't think that's important for the audience. I was about 3 or 4. My uncle would rent tapes from the video store and tape them using 2 VCRs. Yeah, the first type of illegal copying, I guess. Yeah, bootlegs. But he had cabinets and cabinets of full. But the video guy knew what he was doing, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, he gave me a copy of Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and at the end of that tape was Friday the 13th 4. Yeah, Friday the 13th 4. Which was supposed to be the last Friday the 13th, but it wasn't.
No,
But it was
they
a
could
good
have
one.
ended it.
No, come on. There was a lot of good movies out there. Like 6. 6 was fantastic.
Okay.
Well, coming back to my man Freddy Krueger. A Nightmare on Elm Street was released in 1984, written and directed by Mr. Wes Craven. Rest in peace. I remember when he liked one of my tweets.
I do remember.
I still have that photo in that hard drive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
You were so excited.
Oh my god. It made my day. It made my week. Nightmare on Elm Street was produced by Robert Shea, starring Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson, my first boyhood crush. John Saxon as Lieutenant Don Thompson. He was actually their big grab. They wanted to spend money on at least one actor to get people to the theater, and it was Mr. Saxon because of all the other movies he's done.
I like him.
He R.I.P. to him too.
Did you?
No, he passed away.
Oh, I liked him.
Yeah, there you go. Mr. Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Yeah, in the beginning of this movie and throughout the main movie, his name is Fred Krueger. He didn't really become Freddy until the end of 2, beginning of 3.
Right.
Johnny Depp in his first starring role as Glenn Lance. Ronnie Blakely as Marge Thompson, who is the worst part of this movie, without a doubt.
Yeah, I didn't like her.
She was spacey. I think she was drunk half the time. I think she did a piss poor job. Amanda Weiss as...
I mean, she was supposed to play the part of her being an...
But not the whole time. Like,
Yeah, she
there
was
no...
kind of whiny and even...
Yeah, like, I don't
At
think
the
she
s-
did a good job. She had one good scene in the boiler room, and the rest was trash.
Right. Even at the cemetery, she was whiny.
Yeah. I'm gonna get her some help.
Yeah.
How overact can you do? Then Amanda Wise as Tina Gray. She did a good job as Tina. Nick Corey as Rod Lane, where I completely believe the Netflix special that says he really belonged in a different movie because it didn't really fit the Elm Street kids.
No.
Even the latter Elm Street kids. Leslie Hoffman as the Hall Guard, in case anyone wanted to know that. Joseph Whipp as Sergeant Parker. Charles Fleischer as Dr. King. And Lynn Shay as the teacher. And then Mimi Craven was the nurse. So, the story takes place in 1981. It goes down the whole list of what happens in this movie. We're sure you've seen the movie by now. It's a pretty cool description. Tina Gray wakes up from a nightmare where a blade fixed glove attacks her in a boiler room. Wow. Her mother points out slashes in her nightgown. The following morning, Tina's best friend Nancy and Nancy's boyfriend console her. And that's what caused that first kill scene, which was the spinning room.
Yes.
Which was so cool to watch for the first time, and how great the effects were before special effect or before CPU effects.
Yes. I was not aware of it was upside down. I was like, how the hell are they doing this? But then I saw somewhere that might have been Netflix or something, and it was upside down.
So since Rod was the bad boy, they put the whole thing on Rod. A manhunt starts for our man Rod. Nancy's dad's the cop. Arrests Ron. Nancy falls asleep in class. So far and so on. But that was also a cool scene after she fell asleep in class. She saw Tina in the hallway with the blood.
She saw Tina and she went to follow her.
And I think that's what was so creepy, is you could never tell when they were dreaming until they were dreaming.
Right.
And that was pretty cool. There wasn't like blue all over or whatever. It was just like, boom. The guy, the blonde surfer guy's up there going, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Then you realize she's asleep. Well, Nancy's parents decide to get her some help, take her to the dream doctor, which I didn't know there were dream doctors, but there's dream doctors, or sleep doctors.
Yeah.
I'm going to get her some help. I hate that woman. That woman ruined this movie for me almost.
Yeah, I didn't like her.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else played such a great role.
Another cool scene I liked was when Nancy fell asleep in the bathtub.
Yes.
I did like that.
Yep. She's nearly drowned by Freddie underneath her. And if you're very careful, I'm sure they meant to not see that. But as like a 3-year-old, you kind of notice a boobie for the first time.
Well, who at 3 is watching?
Nobody, but now that I see it now, I'm noticing titties hanging out. All right. I had a huge crush on Nancy, Miss Langenkamp.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Nancy knows that it's not Rod, so she goes to visit Rod. Nancy sees the man prepare to kill Rod in his cell, but then he turns his attention towards her. Nancy runs away and wakes up when her alarm clock goes off. The man kills Rod by wrapping bed sheets around his neck, staging it as a suicide. This wasn't the best effect. I think something went wrong here, because it kind of had harsh cuts in it, if you remember correctly.
Yes.
And then they're at Rod's funerals when Nancy's mom is like, I'm going to get her some help. This is when Nancy grabs a hat out of a dream.
Yes.
With the name Fred Krueger written in it.
The fedora she grabbed.
The fedora. I got a couple of those laying around.
Yes.
I don't look good in the fedora, though. After barricading the house, locking Nancy inside, Marge explains that Krueger was an insane child murderer who was released on a technicality and then burned alive by parents living on their street seeking vigilante justice. Nancy realizes that Krueger, now a vengeful ghost, I think he's a little more than that, is killing her and her friends out of revenge and to satisfy his psychopathic needs. But we did see that I just posted a couple weeks ago that there was a deleted scene from this.
Yes.
That
I don't know why they didn't put that in there.
I don't know. Maybe
they
because
thought they were going to go elsewhere with it.
Well, my thought is, how did Nancy not know
that she had siblings?
It's not like her parents, who were in their 40s, had a kid when they were 10 that died, and you know what I mean?
Maybe they had the sibling first, and then Nancy after she passed away. After Freddie supposedly have taken.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, maybe.
And they didn't talk
but
about
yeah,
her.
I guess that would have made sense. But basically, all the Elm Street kids had brothers and sisters that Freddie had killed. That's part of the deleted scene, which was really cool.
It was cool.
I mean, I wasn't expecting to see that in the deleted scene, and I thought I've seen all the deleted scenes, but people find crap in basements all the time, and this shit gets released. Nancy tries to call Glenn to warn him, but his father prevents her from speaking to him. Damn kids, they just need discipline. That guy was a dickhead. Glenn falls asleep and is killed by Krueger in one of the coolest kill scenes of all time.
That was cool.
I mean, the amount of blood used.
Do you know how they got that blood all over?
Oh, I do. Do you?
No, I do not.
It was the same room.
As the spinning room?
Yes, they turned the room upside down and poured
right.
all the blood in. And they also almost killed an engineer.
That I knew.
Because it splashed out and hit some lights and sent charges everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, my hats off to that scene right there. That scene will always be in my mind for any time. Just, it's one of the coolest scenes in horror. Now alone, Nancy puts her mom to sleep and asks Don, who was across the street investigating Glenn's death, to break into the house in 20 minutes. Don is also, you know where Don's from?
No.
Don's the chief of police in Scream.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Nancy rigs booby traps around the house and grabs Krueger out of the dream and into the real world. The booby traps affect Krueger enough that Nancy can light him on fire and lock him in the basement. This was a cool stunt when he was on fire, but it's hard to do with someone's stature as Freddie, because Freddie's really thin. And that guy on fire was probably my size. So you saw the double
notice that. Yes.
heavily. I mean, I knew it was hard to do because you got to pat him from the fire, but it was just like one of those real quick. And he actually went a lot further than they wanted him to. He was actually supposed to be put out before reaching the stairs, and he went running up the stairs, catching a bunch of shit on fire.
Oh my gosh. I did not know that.
Yeah, that was funny when I read that. Krueger and Marge vanish into the bed. Oh, wait, we went too far. The police arrive to find that Krueger has escaped from the basement that Nancy locked him in. Nancy and her dad go upstairs to find a burning Krueger smothering Marge in her bedroom. After Don extinguishes the fire, Krueger and Marge vanish into the bed. It was a pretty cool scene there, too, with everything. When Don leaves the room, Krueger rises from the bed behind Nancy. Realizing that Krueger is powered by his victim's fear, she calmly turns his back to him. Krueger evaporates when he attempts to lunge at her. Really weird ending, because then it just cuts to Nancy steps outside into a bright, foggy morning where all her friends and her mother are still alive. Nancy and the mom's telling her how good she feels, and she says she's going to quit drinking. And
that's when they get into the car.
Yep. Nancy gets into Glenn's convertible to go to school, and the top suddenly comes down and locks them in the car, which I have up there. But the car is covered in a red and green hood, so you know who's behind that. Something comes down and locks them in the car, drives uncontrollably down the street. Three girls in white dresses playing jump rope are heard chanting Krueger's nursery rhyme as Marge is grabbed by Krueger through the front door window. That ending...
I don't care how tiny you are, you're not fitting through one of those windows.
That ending is something that really has bothered me for decades, and literally decades, because it doesn't close anything out. It doesn't.
I wasn't crazy about it.
Doesn't explain anything. Like, obviously, you want to leave things open for a sequel because it's 1984, and you see what the sequels to Friday the 13th are doing. But that ending.
I thought so too.
Well, I'm going to get to the scoring of this movie before we go to a little bit of the behind the scenes. First up, we're going to grade the plot. We're going to give the plot a 5. I thought it was a great story. It was a cool idea.
Yes.
Never been done before.
I would agree.
That glove is iconic 30 years later.
Yes.
Almost 40 years later.
Yes.
Yep. Next up, cast, I'm giving 4 stars.
Is that because of
The mom.
the mom?
Solely the mom.
I didn't like her.
I think everyone else did a really good job. Rod was...
I think they could have found somebody else.
The guy who played Rod was high the entire time. That I found out later.
Oh.
It helped him get help, which was nice. But, yeah, he was a heavy drug abuser. So it could have explained some of those scenes. Fear factor, I'm going to 5. This movie was scary.
I didn't think so, but
Because
I agree.
You gotta come back to the
No,
time.
I do agree.
People call The Exorcist the scariest movie of all time, but...
Yeah, I'm not scared of that either.
Right,
but,
because we're used to this.
I would agree. I mean, I do have friends that don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's scared to death when they kind of like me with Jason.
Yep. The score, I'm giving a 5. It did really good. It's so creepy. I mean, it's not as tremendous as Halloween. It doesn't have the back tones of Friday the 13th, but it does have a nursery rhyme that everybody knows.
Yes, it does.
So all that adds to the score, and I still listen to the score in my car. It's a creepy ass score. Special effects. What? You listen to Backstreet Boys, I listen to horror movie scores. I don't know what to tell you.
No, it was New Kids on the Block.
Same thing. That's even worse, I think. Special effects, I'm giving a 5. The way they had Krueger come out of the wall. The way they had Tina slit from the ceiling. The way they killed Glenn. Phenomenal special effects throughout this entire movie.
I would definitely agree with that.
And overall, and trust me, this kills me because he's my guy. Overall, I'm giving the movie a 4.
4.
Just because the cast, the mom, I can't give this
It's
a perfect
still a great
5.
movie.
It's still a great movie. I'm still watching it. I love
Me too.
everything. But I have to be fair to the movies like we are to the haunts.
Yes.
If we have one issue, we can't give it a perfect score.
Correct.
But that's our thoughts on Nightmare on Elm Street. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the development. Because how Craven came up with this is so damn interesting. Because trust me, I've been thinking of a slasher movie my entire life. And I can't come up with anything original and or close. I just can't. I mean, I've been working on that for...
Do you know how long it took him to come up with this? Like, Scream was written in a weekend.
I think it was a little longer, but it took him a long time to find someone to make it.
Okay.
Paramount said no. Oh, everyone said no, but New Line.
I wonder why. They just thought it was a stupid idea.
People hate horror. Even though it's the biggest moneymaker in Hollywood, people hate horror. So it scares them.
What's this?
Uh-huh. Development has some interesting stuff going on. A Nightmare on Elm Street contains many biographical elements from director Wes Craven's childhood. The basis of the film was inspired by several newspaper articles pertinent in the Los Angeles Times in the 70s about the Hmong refugees who, after fleeing to the United States because of war and genocide in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, suffered disturbing nightmares and refused to sleep. Some of the men died in their sleep soon after. Medical authorities called the phenomenon Asian death syndrome. It's a little racist. The condition affected men between the ages of 19 and 57 and was believed to be sudden unexplained death syndrome or Brugada syndrome or both. Craven stated that it was a series of articles in the LA Times, 3 small articles about men from Southeast Asia who were from immigrant families and had died in the middle of nightmares. And the paper never correlated them, never said, hey, we have another story like this. The 1970s pop song Dreamweaver by Gary Wright sealed the story for Craven, giving him not only an artistic setting to jump off from, but a synthesizer riff for the movie soundtrack. Craven has also stated that he drew some inspiration from the film Eastern Religions.
See, I always thought that Nightmare on Elm Street was about not so much a true story, but about somebody that was having those nightmares and couldn't go to sleep.
It is. It's about all these guys that came over from Laos. There's one story in particular about a young kid who actually had a coffee pot in his room.
That's the one I'm thinking of, but I didn't realize it was from
that was all part of that.
Cambodia and all that.
Other sources attribute the inspiration for the film to be a 1968 student film project made by Craven students at Clarkson University. The student film parodied contemporary horror films and was filmed along Elm Street in Potsdam, New York.
The film's villain, Freddy Krueger, is drawn from Craven's early life. One night, a young Craven saw an elderly man walking on the sidewalk outside the window of his home. The man stopped to glance at a startled Craven and walked off. This served as an inspiration for Krueger. Initially, Fred Krueger was intended to be a child molester, but Craven eventually characterized him as a child murderer to avoid being accused of exploiting of highly publicized child molestation cases that occurred in California around the time of production of the film. I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's why they changed that.
Mm-hmm.
On Freddy's nature, Craven states that, in a sense, Freddy stands for the worst of parenthood and adulthood. The dirty old man, the nasty father, and the adult who wants children to die rather than help them prosper. He's the boogeyman and the worst fear of children. The adult that's out to get him. He is very criminal figure, sort of like Conus, devouring his children. That evil, twisted, perverted father figure that wants to destroy and able to get them at their most vulnerable moment, which is when they're asleep.
By Craven's account, his own adolescence experiences led him to name Freddy Krueger. He had been bullied at a school by a child named Freddy Krueger. Craven had done the same thing in the film The Last House on the Left, where the villain's name was shortened to Krug. The colored sweater he chose for his villain was based on the DC Comics character Plastic Man. Craven chose to make Krueger sweatshirt red and green after reading an article in the 1982 Scientific American that said these two colors were the most clashing colors to the human retina. That's probably why I hate Christmas. They clash my retinas.
Nice try.
Craven strove to make Krueger different from other horror villains of that era. A lot of the killers were wearing masks. Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason, he recalled in 2014. I wanted my villain to have a mask, but be able to talk and taunt and threaten. So I thought of him being burned and scarred.
Which is creepy.
He also felt the killer should use something other than a knife because it was too common. So I thought, how about a glove with steak knives? I gave the idea to our special effects guy, Jim Doyle. Ultimately, 2 models of the glove were built. The hero glove that was only used whenever anything needed to be cut, and the stunt glove that was less likely to cause injury. For a time, Craven had considered a sickle as the weapon of choice for the killer, but around the 3rd or 4th draft of the script, the iconic glove just stuck with him and became the final choice, and I think that was a good idea.
I do agree.
Now, let's get into how he wrote it. Wes Craven began writing the screenplay for A Nightmare on Elm Street around 1981. After he had finished production on Swamp Thing in 1982, he pitched it to several studios, but each one of them rejected it for different reasons.
So it took him about a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first studio to show interest was Walt Disney Productions,
Yeah, okay.
although they wanted Craven to tone down the content to make it suitable for children and preteens. Craven told them to get fucked.
Yeah.
Another studio Craven pitched to was Paramount Pictures, which passed on the project due to its similarity to Dreamscape, 1984. Nobody remembers that movie. Paramount screwed up because they could have owned both Jason and Freddie.
Oh.
That would have been huge. Universal Studios also passed. Craven, who was in desperate personal and financial straits during this period, later framed the company's rejection letter on the wall of his office, which reads, in its December 14th, 1982 print, "We have reviewed the script you have submitted. A Nightmare on Elm Street, unfortunately, the script did not receive an enthusiastic enough response for us to go forward at this time. However, when you have a finished print, please get in touch. We will be delighted to screen it for a possible negative pickup." So they didn't want to greenlight the thing. They just wanted to try and buy it if it was good afterwards.
Right. Finally, the independent New Line Cinema Corporation, which had up to that point only distributed films according to produce the film. During filming, New Line's distribution deal for the film fell through, and for 2 weeks it was unable to pay its cast and crew. Although New Line has gone on to bigger and more profitable films, A Nightmare on Elm Street was its first commercial success, and the studio is often referred to as the house that Freddie built.
Damn right.
Nice.
New Line Cinema lacked the financial resources for the production themselves, and so had to turn to external financiers. They found two investors in England who each contributed 40% and 30% respectively to the necessary funds. One of the producers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre contributed 10%, and home video distributor Media Home Entertainment contributed 20% of the original book. That's crazy. 4 weeks before production began, the English investor who had contributed 40% backed out. But Media Home Entertainment added another 40% to the budget. Among the backers were also Heron Communications and Smart Egg Pictures. According to Shea, all the film's original investors backed out at one point or another during pre-production. The original budget was $700,000 and ended up costing $1.1 million. Half the funding came from a Yugoslavian guy who had a girlfriend he wanted in the movies.
Okay.
So now we're going to get into casting. Believe it or not, actor David Warner was originally cast to play Freddy Krueger. Makeup tests were done, stills were taken, some footage was shot, but he had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts. Thank you. Replacing him was difficult at first. Kane Hodder, who would later be best known for playing fellow slasher icon Jason Voorhees, was among those who Wes Craven talked with about the role of Freddy. According to Hodder, I had met with Wes Craven about playing a character he was developing called Freddy Krueger. At the time, Wes wasn't sure what kind of person he wanted for the role of Freddy, so I had as good a shot as anyone else. He was initially thinking of a big guy for the part, and he was also thinking of someone who had real burn scars. But obviously, he changed the whole line of thinking when he met Robert Englund, who's smaller. I would have loved to play the part, but I do think Wes made the right choice, Hodder said. Hodder would, in a way, eventually play Freddy as the hand that grabs Jason Mask at the epilogue of Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday in 1993.
I can't imagine anybody but Robert playing. I mean, it's just so hard to think of somebody else in that role.
Yep. Wes Craven explains that I couldn't find an actor to play Freddy Krueger with the sense of ferocity I was seeking. Craven recalled on the film's 30th anniversary, everyone was too quiet, too compassionate towards children, and Robert Englund additioned. He wasn't as tall as I'd hoped, and he had baby fat on his face, but he impressed me with the willingness to go to the dark places in his mind. Robert understood Freddie. Robert Englund has stated that Craven was indeed in search of a big giant man originally, but casting director Annette Benson had talked Craven into seeing him about the role after Englund had auditioned for National Lampoon's Class Reunion in '82. Before Englund's agent at the time, Joe Rice, sent him to the casting office, Rice's friend, Rhett Topham, recommended Englund to act rat-like, weasel-like, adding that when we read about abusers and molesters in the newspaper, they're not big, hulking men, but weasels. Which is true.
Yes.
I thought he should go in and play it like that, and it worked. Englund had darkened his lower eyelids with cigarette ash on his way to the audition and sleeked his hair back. I looked strange. I sat there and listened to Weiss talk. He was tall, preppy, and attitude. I posed a bit like Klaus Kinski, and that was the audition. He said later he took the part because I was the only project that would fit in the schedule during the hiatus between the V miniseries and series. Pretty crazy how these things happen.
Yes, it is.
The next one is how Nancy became casted.
So Craven said he wanted someone very non-Hollywood for the role of Nancy, and he believed Langenkamp met this quality. She had appeared in several commercials and a TV film, had taken off from her studies at Sanford to continue acting. Eventually, she landed the role of Nancy Thompson after an open audition, beating out more than 200 actresses. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
She was already known to Annette Benson, and she had auditioned for Night of the Comet and The Last Starfighter, previously losing out to Catherine Mary Stewart at both occasions. Demi Moore, Courtney Cox, Tracy Gold, and Jennifer Grey have all been rumored to have auditioned for Nightmare on Elm Street. But Benson definitely ruled out Moore and Courtney Cox, while also being unsure of Gold and Jennifer Grey. Langenkamp returned as Nancy in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. I like that one.
It's the best one.
And also a
fictionalized version of herself.
Okay.
The Meta movie.
Oh, okay. There were no separate auditions for the characters of Tina and Nancy. All actresses who auditioned for one of the two female roles read for the role of Nancy, and upon potentially being called back, were mixed with other actresses trying to find a pair that had the chemistry. Amanda Weiss was among those switched to Tina after a callback. Wes Craven decided immediately upon mixing Weiss and Langenkamp that this was the duo he wanted. Craven then mixed the duo with auditioners for the male teenager roles, trying to find actors who had the chemistry of Weiss and Langenkamp.
Yeah, and you can see that.
Yeah, you can see how they go together.
Yeah. Glenn. Mr. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was another unknown when he was cast. Initially accompanying his friend Jackie Earle Haley, who went on to play Freddie in that 2010 remake that never existed, to an audition. Depp wound up casting the part of Glenn. According to Depp, the role was originally written as a big blonde beach jock football guy player.
That's definitely not him.
Far from his own appearance, but Wes Craven's daughter picked Depp's headshot from the set he showed them. Depp got his own nod in a cameo role in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare as a man on TV, and later in Freddy vs. Jason intro in clips from earlier films. Charlie Sheen was considered for the role, but allegedly wanted too much money. Annette Benson states that they did in fact offer the part to Sheen, but he passed on it due to his agent demanding twice the weekly wage of $1,142 for Sheen, which New Line Cinema did not consider them in the budget. Sheen himself objects to the sentiment that he turned down the role for the reason, but who the hell knows what the hell Charlie Sheen is
I
doing?
don't think he knows what the hell he's doing anymore.
But that would have been, I can't see Charlie Sheen playing Glenn.
No. I mean, it's perfect with Johnny Depp.
But if he played the character
he played
he played in Platoon, in the beginning of Platoon, I could see that.
I could see that.
Huh. I didn't price myself out of it because I didn't get greedy until years later. There's Charlie Sheen.
That's Charlie Sheen.
That came much later. I just didn't get it, and I've never been more wrong about interpreting a script. I just didn't get it completely, but I still took a meeting with Weiss, and when I met him, I said, look, with all due respect, and as a fan of your talents, I just don't see this guy wearing a funny hat with a rounded face and a striped sweater and a bunch of clacky fingers. I just don't see this catching on. Oh, 40 years later.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen, you were wrong.
Alright. Mark Patton, who would later be cast as Jesse Walsh in the sequel, auditioned for the role of Glenn Lance and claimed that the auditioners had been winnowed down to him and Johnny Depp before Depp got the role. Other actors like John Cusack, Brad Pitt, Kiefer Sutherland, Nicolas Cage, and C. Thomas Howell have been mentioned over the years, but Annette Benson has failed to directly recall those actors as having been among the auditioneers. Though Cage had probably not auditioned for A Nightmare on Elm Street, he was in fact involved in introducing Johnny Depp to acting through Cage's own agent who introduced Benton to him, resulting in an audition for the film. This is basically how it got shot. Principal photography began on June 11th, 1984, and lasted a total of 32 days.
Wow.
With those special effects, that's pretty quick.
That I was going to say, that doesn't seem long at all. And they filmed that around Los Angeles, in Cali.
Yep. The high school the protagonist attended was filmed at John Marshall High School, where many other productions such as Grease, Pretty in Pink have been filmed. The fictional street address of Nancy's house in the film is 1428 Elm Street. In real life, this house is a private home located in Los Angeles at 1428 North Genesee Avenue. The Lance family home was at 1419 North Genesee Avenue on the other side of the road. You know, my dumbass went to this house and I never looked at Glenn's house.
You never looked across the street?
No. I was too in awe. The boiler room scene.
It's a tiny house.
Nah, it goes back. Did you see the pictures of it since it's been on sale?
No.
There's a pool house back there, like a full-on pool house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Big pool.
I mean, the pictures you sent me.
It feels tiny, but it goes
tiny.
way back. The boiler room scenes and police station interior were shot in the Lincoln Heights jail, closed since 1965. While the exterior used for the police station was Cahunga Branch Library. Rod's burial was filmed at Evergreen Cemetery. The American Jewish University on 15600 Mulholland Drive was used for the Katcha Institute of Study of Sleep Disorders. I don't know where they came up with that name.
During production, over 500 gallons of fake blood were used for special effects.
This was the record
That's
up
a
until...
lot.
I forget what movie broke the record, but it was kind of recent. And within the last 10 years, it was broken. But this was the record.
For the blood geyser sequence, the filmmakers used the same revolving room set that was used for Tina's death. Okay. While filming the scenes, the cameraman and Craven himself were mounted in fixed seats.
Taken from a Datsun.
Datsun B210 car while the set rotated. That's crazy.
I know.
The film crew inverted the set and attached the camera so that it looked like the room was right side up. Then they poured the red water into the room. They used the dye water because the special effect blood did not have the right look for the geysers. During film on the scene, the red water poured out in an unexpected way and caused the rotating room to spin. Much of the water spilled out of the room window, covering Craven and Langenkamp. That's funny.
She wasn't even in that scene.
No. Earth's gravity was also used to film another take for the TV version in which a skeleton shoots out from the hollowed out bed and smashes into the ceiling.
More work was done for Freddy's boiler room that made it into the film. The film crew constructed a whole sleeping place for Freddy, showing that he was quite a hobo, an outcast and reject from society, living and sleeping where he worked and surrounding himself with naked Barbie dolls and other things as a showcase of his fantasies and perversions. This place was supposed to be where he forged his glove and abducted and murdered his victims. The scene where Nancy is attacked by Krueger in a bathtub was accomplished with a special bottomless tub. The tub was put in the bathroom set that was built over a swimming pool. During the underwater scene, Heather was replaced with a stunt woman. The melting staircase in Nancy's dream was Robert Shaye's idea based on his own nightmares. And Wes Craven fucking hated it.
That was such a mess. I didn't know what they used.
It was pancake and marshmallow or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, pancake mix, and I think he had a marshmallow. But Craven hated it. He walked away. He let Robert Shaye direct that scene. He was done.
I thought it was a cool scene.
I guess it just didn't make sense. I mean, it's creepy. You have dreams where you can't move. I get it. The film's special effect artist Jim Doyle portrayed Freddy on the scene where his face and hands that stretch through the wall and reach out for Nancy when she dreams. The wall was built by Doyle at a spandex. So that was a cheap prop. What did it cost them? $10?
Yeah.
In the scene where Freddy walks through prison bars to threaten Rod, as seen by Nancy, West explains that we took triangulations of the camera so we knew exactly the height of it from the floor and the angle towards the point where the killer was going to walk through. And then we put the camera again at the exact height and walked the actor through that space. Then those two images were married and a rotoscope artist went through and matted at the bars so it appeared that they were going straight through his body. So that's how they did that back in the 80s.
That was pretty cool.
Juzu Garcia, who was cast as Rod and credited as Nick Corey, says the production was difficult for him. He was dealing with depression due to recent homelessness by snorting heroin in the bathroom between takes. Like I said, he was high the whole time.
Wow.
In 2014, he revealed that he was high on heroin during the scene with Langenkamp in the jail cell. His eyes were watery and they weren't focused, Langenkamp said. I thought, wow, he's given the best performance of his life. But I mean, if there's a scene to have watery eyes and be all fucked up, it'd be that. He's sitting in jail for shit he didn't do. I mean, you wouldn't have known that.
Right. Sean Cunningham, whose Wes Craven had previously worked with while filming The Last House on the Left, helped Craven at the end of the shooting, heading the second film unit during the film of Nancy's dream scenes.
So the creator of Friday the 13th helped on Nightmare on Elm Street. So they've always been married. They really have. They've always been one hand on the other. Craven...
Go ahead.
Craven originally planned for the film to have a more evocative ending. Nancy kills Krueger by ceasing to believe in him, that awakens to discover that everything that happened in the film was an elongated nightmare. However, New Line leader Robert Shaye demanded a twist ending in which Krueger disappears and all seems to have been a dream, only for the audience to discover that it was a dream within a dream within a dream, according to Craven. The original ending of the script has Nancy come out the door. It's an unusually cloudy and foggy day in LA. I've been to LA for months.
It's always foggy.
No. It's very rare. Seattle's always foggy and cloudy.
That's
A car pulls up with her dead friends in it. She's startled. She goes out and gets in the car wondering what the hell is going on. And they drive off into the fog, with the mother left standing on the doorstep, and that's it. It was very brief and suggestive that maybe life is sort of like a dream too. Shay wanted Freddy Krueger to be driving the car and have the kids screaming. It all became
That
very...
would have been cool.
It would have been alright. It all became very negative. I felt a physiological tension to my ending, Shay said. That's so 60s, it's stupid. I refuse to have Freddie in the driver's seat. We thought up about 5 different endings. The one we used, with Freddie pulling the mother through the doorway, amused us all so much we could not use it. Huh.
Interesting.
I know.
Craven explains that the effect of the mentioned fog did not work out for the team, and they had to film without it.
Yeah, fog's a pain in the ass, as we learned.
Yes. I don't know how those haunts do it.
They got better fucking machines than we do.
There were about 20 people with fog machines, but the breeze at the time was too much, and the fog was gone before they had the opportunity to film the foggy scenes. Through though several variants of the end scene was considered and filmed, Heather states that there was always the sense of Freddie in the car.
Freddie was the car.
Oh, Freddie was the car, sorry. While according to Sarah Richter, it was always Wes's idea to pan to the little girl's jumping rope. And that is creepy.
It is.
Little girls jumping rope. Both a happy ending and a twist ending were filmed, but the final film used the twist ending. As a result, Craven, who never wanted to film to be an ongoing franchise, did not work on the first sequence, Freddy's Revenge, which was 1985. Filming wrapped up at the end of July, and the film was rushed to get ready for its November release.
Wow.
That's crazy.
A lot goes into these things. The film score was written by composer Charles Bernstein and released in 1984 on label Verisi Sarabande. The label re-released the soundtrack in 2015 in an 8-CD box for the franchise soundtracks, excluding the remake. I need to find that.
Oh my gosh, something else I have to hunt for.
I need to find that. Bernstein's film score was also re-released in 2017, along with the soundtracks of the first 7 films on the label Death Waltz Recording Company, and another 8 LP vinyl box set named A Nightmare on Elm Street Box of Souls. Anyone got another bookshelf? Running out of shit. The label also released standalone extended versions of the soundtrack with many snippets that were left out of the original release. Freddy's theme song. The lyrics for Freddy's theme song, sung by the Jump Rope Children throughout the series, are based on 1, 2, Buckle My Shoe. It was already written and included in the script when Bernstein started writing the soundtrack, while the melody for it was not set by Bernstein, but by Heather Langenkamp's boyfriend and soon-to-be husband at the time, Alan Pasqua, who was a musician himself. Bernstein integrated Pasqua's contribution into his soundtrack as he saw fit. One of the 3 girls who recorded the vocal part of the theme was Robert Shay's then 14-year-old daughter. Oh, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. When the film was submitted to the Motion Picture Association of America filming rating system, they required 2 cuts to grant it an R rating.
Those motherfuckers. Alright, continue.
The theatrical version was released with an R rating and 13 seconds of cuts. In the United Kingdom, the film was released theatrically and the home video uncut. The Australian release was edited to an M rating. What the hell is an M rating?
Mature.
Oh, for the mature?
Yeah.
I didn't think they had that in movies. It's always PG, PG-13.
Nah, M's like 18 and over. I think.
And then R-rated. M is on games, on video games.
Oh, maybe it was a different country too, though.
Oh, that's true. But the VHS home video was released uncut in 1985 with an Australian R rating. The uncut version would not see a release in the United States until 1996 Elite Entertainment
Laserdisc.
Laserdisc release. All DVD, digital, Blu-ray releases use the R-rated version. The uncut version has yet to be released on digital format. Those 6 seconds were restored for the home video and further 2 seconds for current releases.
What the hell, 2 seconds? Like,
What are you going to show for 2 seconds?
maybe the bathroom scene? 2 extra seconds.
An extra boob for 2
Maybe.
seconds?
Who knows? Some countries don't care about that shit. Others care heavily. It's weird.
Reminds me of the movie theater when we went to go see a different movie.
Yeah. Ted too. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Ted 2.
Your host can be loud in public sometimes. It just happens. Home media. The film was first introduced to the home video market by Media Home Entertainment in early 1985 and was eventually released on Laserdisc. It has since been released on DVD. First in 1999 in the United States as part of the Nightmare Elm Street collection box. As you can see...
It's not on your shelf.
Yes, it is.
You have that?
I have that.
Yes,
Right
you
there.
do.
I have it. It's beat up, but I have it.
You're just missing the
VHS. I don't have the VHS.
VHS, and now you want the albums.
And once again, it was restored Infinifilm Special Edition in 2006, containing various special features with contributions. Now, this is the one I have, the one from 2006. Contributions from Wes Craven, Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, and the director. That series comes with a great behind the scenes. It's like 6 hours long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The special edition consists of 2 DVDs, one with the film picture and sound restored Dolby and original mono audio track, and another DVD with special features. Along with the restored version of the film, DVD 1 also had 2 commentaries and other nightmares, if not all, from the film sequels, 2 through 7 and Freddy vs. Jason. It also included additional extended or alternative scenes of the film, such as one where Marge reveals to Nancy that she had another sibling. See, I don't have that one because I would have known that.
Right.
Weird. On April 13th, 2010, the film was released on Blu-ray disc by Warner Home Video with all the same extras from the 2006 special edition. Maybe I just didn't watch it because I have the Blu-ray back there.
Oh, maybe not.
Alright, while I get our fun facts ready, do you want to finish that paragraph off?
A Nightmare on Elm Street premiered in the United States with a limited theatrical release as on November 9th, 1984, opening in 165 cinemas across the country and grossing 1.2.
1.27 mil
Yeah.
during its opening weekend. The film was considered an instant commercial success. The film eventually earned a total of $25,504,000, $57 million worldwide. The movie cost 1.1 to make.
Right.
Made some money there.
Charlie Sheen's kicking himself in the butt.
All right, so we're gonna run through a couple. We got a couple minutes left, so let's do some fun facts.
These are always fun.
We'll just skip through whatever we just learned from there.
Yes.
New Line Cinema was saved from bankruptcy by the success of the film and was jokingly named, not jokingly, the house that Freddie built. Robert Shea consistently says that. It's the house that Freddie built.
I agree.
Yep. The scene where Freddie's arms elongate, the one where he's scraping both sides of the wall, were achieved by having men with fishing poles on each side of the alley operating a set of puppet arms.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool. This one was pretty cool. I read this before. The original glove was used later in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and was also seen hanging on the wall of the work shed in Evil Dead 2. This was in response to the use of the Evil Dead on a television screen when Nancy was in her room, and part of a continued banter between directors Wes Craven and Sam Raimi. However, when Wes Craven loaned the glove to A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, it got lost. But it is rumored to be in possession by Robert Englund's agent, which, can you call me back? Email? Something? Come on.
Maybe one of these days.
Oh, we'll get there. I will talk to that man. Didn't want that. Didn't want that. Do that. Wes Craven's original concept for Freddy Krueger was considerably more gruesome, with teeth showing through the flesh over the jaw, pus running from the sores, and a part of the skull showing through the head. Makeup artist David Miller argued that an actor couldn't be convincingly made up that way, and a puppet would be hard to film and wouldn't blend well with live action. So yeah, because they would have done some stop motion bullshit. I'm glad they didn't go that way. It would take about 3 hours for Robert Englund to get into his makeup.
That I knew.
I don't even like sitting on planes for 3 hours.
And he had to sit in that chair for 3 hours.
Oh, man. The idea behind the glove was a practical one on Wes Craven's part, as he wanted to give the character a unique weapon, but also something that could be made cheaply and wouldn't be difficult to use or transport. At the time, he was studying primal fears embedded in the subconscious of people. Wes Craven studied some weird shit. I learned a lot about that man, but he was always learning. He was always reading, always studying.
The sparking glove effect seen throughout the movie was achieved by attaching the glove to a car battery. I did not know that.
Well, that's how they do it in the haunts. There's a car battery up on whatever they're poking against the chains.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
See? More haunts. The words Elm Street are not spoken at all during the movie.
No, they're not.
Nope. In the original script, Freddy's famous red and green sweater was red and yellow. So maybe that's why they went that way with the NES game. Because he wore red and yellow in that.
Oh, yeah.
Because Nintendo could never get that right. Just why Jason was in purple.
That were the colors that Plastic Man.
Yep.
I didn't even realize that game you got is yellow.
It's not yellow.
The sweater.
Yeah, it's a whole different color.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
I'll show you a picture when we're done.
Elm Street was named after Elm Street in Wheaton, Illinois, where Wes Craven went to college.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah. Wes Craven says he was told that this was the first film to use a breakaway mirror. Some history. Some history. I did hear this. Prior to making the film, Amanda Weiss, who played Tina, had never even seen a horror movie. And Heather Langenkamp had only seen Bird Offerings.
I never even heard of that.
And then she had to get into a body bag. Wow. Wes Craven wrote the script and presented it in 1971. So it took him 13 years to get it made.
I mean, how old was Heather when the movie was?
I think she was 19.
Yeah, she was still a teenager.
Glenn's body was supposed to rise from the bed after the geyser scene, but it was cut. I don't think that would have worked.
No, I'm glad they cut it.
Yeah, I'm not good with that. Although the character is credited as Freddy Krueger in the sequels, he is credited as Fred Krueger in this film. Like I said, he was Fred Krueger for 1, and I'm pretty sure most of 2, because when she found the diary of Nancy, it said his name was Fred, and they kept saying Fred.
Right.
So I don't think he became the generic Freddy Krueger until 3.
Yes.
And that's when all that happened, was after 3. In part 3, I'm not doing part 3 because we're going to do part 3. The knives on the glove were not fishing or steak knives as many believe, but actually tomato knives. Tomato knives. Wow. I mean, this movie will go down in history as one of the top horror movies of its time. It's in every actor's, Lifetime does a list, CBS does a list, Lifetime Achievements does a list, the Academy does a list. It's always in the top 100.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean,
I always have.
You can't go to any part of this world and people will still know who Freddy Krueger is.
That's
I mean,
true.
he was bigger than Darth Vader. I remember how big Vader was in the 70s.
Yes.
It's just amazing. Well, that is our first movie review. I mean, I wish I could give my favorite horror movie a 5, but we got to be fair. We got to be real. Nancy's mom was awful. It always bothered, even when I was little. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, before I even knew structures of movies and got into movies as deep as I have and learned as much about his movies, she drove me nuts. Even as a little shit in a diaper, probably still. But, what? I was probably in diapers. I don't know. It's been a long ass
If you were
time.
3, I hope you're not in diapers.
Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I don't remember. I was at least 5. Probably.
Well, at 5, I hope you're not in diapers.
Nah, I wasn't. Nah, but I'm thinking 5 stands out. Like kindergarten.
I think you were 5. I think I remember someone saying something.
I know I was way too fucking young.
Definitely.
But
I remember my son, I want to say he was probably 8, and he wanted to watch it, and I wouldn't let him. And I went to sleep, and he watched it. Never knew it. And then weeks, he had nightmares. He was probably like 7.
See, I never.
6 or 7. And he had nightmares.
They never affected me. I never had a nightmare from a horror movie.
I was like, I told you not to watch it.
All my nightmares are like true life stuff. Like things happening to the kids, you playing, like real life, like never movie stuff. Like I never dreamt of Freddy Krueger. I never dreamt of Jason Voorhees or vampires or anything like that.
No.
So it's weird. It's weird how it affects people in different ways.
Well, look at me with Jason.
Mm-hmm.
I was traumatized as a teenager.
And that's something I think we might cover with Grin, is kid actors and haunts. Because it's still up for debate. There's people against it. There's people for it.
And there's a lot. When we go to
There was a
haunts,
lot.
There's a lot of kids. And they look so cute. They're trying to be a killer clown. They look so adorable. And I love clowns. I'm not one of those ones that are afraid of clowns.
But
But they look cute.
I won't get into my side of it because I think that would be a good interaction with Grin when we have him back on about that detail. But there's a lot that goes into that because if it's not the right kind of kid, it can really fuck a kid up in those places.
Right.
I mean, one room, you have a naked woman cut open and an actor jumping out. Maybe not the best room for a kid, but if the kid can handle it, like I think I could have handled it at 6 or 7.
I would agree.
I've had practice.
Now, your kids, forget it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, like I
they
said,
couldn't.
it all depends on the kid. But that wraps up A Nightmare on Elm Street, our first movie review on the YouTube channel and podcast. We have more coming. I'm going to continue the Freddy series, and we'll do 2 next.
Okay.
Do you have to watch that one? Because I don't. I I know that scene for scene 2. 2 was actually one of the scarier ones.
I would probably want to brush up on it because I haven't seen 2. 1, I know like the back of my hand.
I know we didn't have to watch 1.
One,
I could read off the whole script to you probably.
Yeah, 1, I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, but I wanted to do a movie everyone saw just to bring it back to this time. Like, a lot of people are just doing Scream and stuff like that because the new Scream's coming out. But I want to start at my favorites. I want to do all of these. I want to do all the Halloweens. I want to do all the Jasons. Get into the Chuckies. You'll be fine.
Maybe we should have Brian do Jason.
Brian's got his own thing. Leave Brian alone. He's busy enough. She's talking about our friends at Horror 365. Hi, guys.
I don't like Jason.
I want to have Brian come over dressed.
Oh my god,
And
I
stalk
would have
your
a
ass.
stroke. You would piss yourself.
Hear that, South Jersey Jason? I think we have a goal.
I would have a stroke. You're gonna have the medic on standby.
You'll be fine. Well, we're not sure what our next video is going to be. I'm tossing up a couple things. There's a couple interviews I want to get done. It might be a movie. It might be a true crime. We don't know. I know we'll try and film it next weekend, though. But that's all I have for you today at HalloweenHaunts365.com, the podcast where every day is haunt season. Goodbye.
Bye.